Good morning. Welcome to Monday Mentor with Jen. I'm Jen Whitmer, and I help teams and leaders solve conflict, cultivate communication, and create empowered teams. And today on Monday Mentor, I am your mentor and training on rituals. So the word ritual can kind of freak people out a little bit. So I want to explain what a ritual can be and what the power of it is. But so before you turn off and are like, I mean, what's a ritual? And I don't really need this. I want you to listen and kind of just be a little curious and open about the power of a ritual. So, several years ago, I was in a toxic work environment. I was a leader in an organization, and our director, the head of the organization, was an unskilled and difficult leader that because of that lack of skill, it turned into a really toxic workplace and some abusive practices. And it turned into this place where I had experienced staying up late at night, not being able to sleep, not being focused on my kids, not being able to get my work done at work. I was experiencing physical symptoms. My husband was kind of angry all the time because everything just kept piling on this mountain of work. So finally, after I left, I started to realize I needed some help. I needed a coach and I needed a therapist. And so I worked on recovering from that place. And it wasn't a difficult step to jump into therapy. That was something I really needed. So if you've ever experienced therapy, you probably understand that idea of like, oh, this is hard work, but it's good work. But that hard work that happens inside that office where I'm sitting on the couch and my therapist is asking me questions and we're talking through it, it's this kind of emotional uncovering. And then I'd have to leave this great, safe, cozy place with a sparkly pillow on my lap and then have to go back to work. And so this emotional and physical self was not quite ready and my mind couldn't catch up either. And so I started developing a ritual, and that ritual was super simple. It was, I'm going to get a Diet Chick-fil-A lemonade. So whenever I would leave therapy, I would get a Diet Chick-fil-A lemonade. Now I since have made some interesting connections between the sweet and the sour and what that can do, but I'm not gonna go into that. But that little symbol of when I am finished with therapy, I get a Diet Chick-fil-A lemonade, that kind of woke me up a little bit and helped me know that that is the signal I am going back to doing my job. Not that I left behind what was happening in the counseling office, but it was now time to transition to something new. And that's what rituals do for us, which rituals can be something incredibly simple. They are just a process or a signal that we're moving from one thing to another. So it doesn't have to be all kinds of crazy woo-woo things. If you're scared of that, it absolutely can be. I am 100% on board with some time of meditation and pause. But rituals are just signals to help us catch up and help us transition to a new place. Our bodies are, and our minds and our hearts are not designed to move as quickly as this modern world seems to require of us, or the expectations we put on ourselves. And so particularly our minds can move ahead, but if our bodies and our emotions are not with our minds are not as effective. So if you're getting ready to move from one activity and you're going to expect to jump into being present and strategic and on and developing and creative, whatever it is that you are doing, you will have a hard time if your mind is not connected to your heart and your body. So if you've ever traveled on a plane and gone more than a couple hours in time, you have experienced jet lag. And jet lag is that feeling of being a little bit confused. You feel all kind of weird in your body. You get foggy head. Sometimes your stomach hurts. It depends. I'd love to know what symptoms y'all have of jet lag. I remember the first time I had really bad jet lag. I'd traveled overseas before, but I was traveling to stay in England for a while. And so I'd gone from middle of America and I had traveled from Kansas City to London. And so it's the 6-hour time difference. It was overnight, didn't sleep on the plane. And so it was a little bit of lack of sleep, but it was much more this kind of oh, wow, my stomach kind of hurts. And then we got in a car and traveled. So I love my English friends, but they're on the opposite side of the road. And all of a sudden I was very confused, and it was mostly jet lag. Like I just didn't know where I was. My brain couldn't catch up because my body still hadn't caught up either. And that's that experience of jet lag. So after that, every time I travel overseas, I have a little pattern that I do that signals to my body, here's where I am now, and here's how we catch up. So I like to go outside. I like to take a walk. I like to go to a grocery store because I just think grocery stores are fun in foreign countries. And so when that's that way of telling your body to catch up, and that's what rituals do. But what about our emotions? Our emotions don't move as fast either. And we like to think that we can just move really quickly. So if you are kind of multitasking, listening to me, I want you just to pause for 2 minutes. We're going to do something that I want you to pay attention to. And so I want you just to think about these things that I'm going to say. If you are at a place that you can kind of, oh gosh, being hangry is so hard, Ryan. So if you can think about, if you can close your eyes, that would be great. So I'm just going to say some things, and I want you to picture them as I say them. So an elephant, a tiger, a piece of paper, your telephone, your kitchen sink, your car. How many of you could easily go through and picture those different things? You could just, your mind can go boop, 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 and you can easily picture those things. Okay, so now I'm going to do a different set of statements, and I want you to see if you can keep up. Okay. Feel happy, feel sad, feel enraged, feel tired, feel confused. Maybe the confused was easy because you're like, wait, I'm still back at feel sad. It is, you could like logically know what I was saying, but I imagine that your emotions couldn't catch up. And that's because our emotions do not move as quickly as our minds. And that is why rituals are important. The ritual allows our emotions to catch up and our bodies to catch up with our minds, and we can move forward together. Your creativity, your strategy, all of the things that you need to do your work, your body and your mind can now catch up. Rituals are signals that we are transitioning from one space to another. And that's all the ritual is. So I want you to think about ways to do this first with yourself and then with your team. So whatever level of leadership you have always begins with ourselves. We always start with self-leadership because you can't take people where you're not willing to go. And so I want you to just to think about one thing that you can do to transition in your life. That might be a tiny morning routine. It might be a small evening routine. It might be how you're going to start your day. It might be how you're going to end your day. One of my rituals to end my day is I write my to-do list for the next day. I kind of pretend that I'm the boss at the end of the day. And in the morning, my ritual is then to look at what did the boss say that I was going to do. The problem is I'm really hard to manage. But so that's my little ritual. At the end of the day, I write through, here's what I'm going to do tomorrow. It kind of just tells my brain I'm done working for the day. It's off my plate and I can transition to my family. And that's really helpful because I am here in this office and my family's on the other side of that door. But even if you work in an office, that's a helpful way to leave that behind and move on. That may not be your ritual. That's just one that I have found really helpful in myself as a leader. And so pick something small that you can signal to your brain and your heart and your body that we are transitioning from one space to another. Again, that's all a ritual is. So that for yourself is important. But then I want you to think about how can you bring this to your team? How can you help your team? Maybe you're going to help them as individuals, but also how can we as a team transition and create rituals around what we do? So you know your work environment and what you have. So I'm sure you've got some ideas percolating. I would love to hear them in the comments because everybody who's listening, Ryan and Lauren in London, y'all have different types of spaces for your team. So one thing that I think is a really helpful ritual that I have used in the past is a 5-minute stand-up meeting. Some people call it a huddle. Some people have other names for it that are far cuter. But a 5-minute stand-up is just, here's what I'm doing today. and here's what I need help with. Those 2 questions. And if you can get your team to go around that, some people may not need help with anything. And then, but you as the leader and everybody else kind of has this connected idea of, oh, we as a team are working together on this, and we've transitioned from home into work. And you can do that on a Zoom. You can do that in an actual stand-up. If you are in an office, that is a great way to get your people together and just connect on what they're doing that day. Another thing you could do is after an event, if you have done some big project, you've gotten off with a client, have a 5-minute, 2-minute huddle just afterwards. What was good about that? What do we need to do now? Or another great question is, how did you feel about that? What do we need to do now? Something that, again, kind of closes that and moves people to the next activity. That's, again, all a ritual is an activity that signals to your heart and your mind and your body to move from one place to the next. Now, Ryan is bringing up a great point about using a stopwatch, using something that lets people know and train your people that this isn't a therapy session, as much as I do love my therapy and my diet Chick-fil-A lemonade. This is a quick thing. It really is a couple bullets on each one when you're working together as a team in that space. Now, you also may create rituals of longer times of, hey, we're going to always set aside 2 hours after an event, especially if it's like a 3-day event or a board meeting or something like that, to go through what we felt like that worked. Like that kind of thing can work really well too. But a ritual is more an in the moment thing where that stopwatch is actually really important. And you have to train your people that's us being kind to one another and making sure everyone is heard. So that's a great point, Ryan. And imported that from Walmart, the huddle. Yeah, it is just a great way to connect everybody. So the ritual, again, I just want to remind you that it is an open space to bring us from one place to another. So your heart and your mind and your body are all connected, aligned, and moving together in the same space. So for me, that transition back from therapy to work is a diet Chick-fil-A lemonade. And my transition from I'm done working for the day to now I'm going to go home behind the door is I'm going to write down my to-do list for tomorrow. My opening before I open my email for the day is to look at my to-do list. Those are things that have just worked for me, and they're small rituals that help my brain and mind and body transition to the next thing. I would love to hear your ideas of what you do to help yourself. I know some people created during the pandemic a commute for themselves. They would get in the car and just drive for 10 minutes. Some people transition from morning to afternoon with a walk. I know my husband often transitions by taking a walk around our deck because my overlooks. And so, because he also works from home, that kind of like, I'm going to move outside and now I'm going to go back to the next thing. Whatever ritual you create, give it some time. It doesn't have to be perfect. Let it iterate, let it be creative, but know that its purpose is to take you from one thing and signal to your mind and your heart and your body to the next activity. That's how we work as whole humans. And I would love to help some of you with that. I have a small women's leadership group where we work through the Enneagram around all different types of leadership skills. And one of the ones that we work on is our rituals and rhythms, because the rituals and rhythms make up your daily life, and that makes up your leadership and helps you connect with yourself and others better. So if you are interested, you can check out the Catalyst Leadership Lab, but you can also just shoot me a DM. I would love to talk to you about it if that is something that's interesting to you, to have a community of women leaders who are really wanting to understand themselves better, move past exhaustion, and get toward exhilaration and being excited about work again. So I hope this training was helpful. And next week on Monday Mentor, I will be back. And I hope that this was helpful to you. If you ever have exciting ideas, you're like, hey, I'd really love to know more about this, or I would love to hear from this person, have Jen interview this person and be Monday Mentor, please let me know, because I want this to be helpful for you, that you have the opportunity to take away some nuggets of leadership skills to apply in your everyday walking around life. All right, everybody. Thanks for being here. Have a great Monday, and I will see you next week. Bye.